Hi everyone, I'm Any New Province, and this week we're playing Mono Blue Freed from the Real for Net Benefits, the series where we explore the benefits of net decking in Pauper. Freed from the Real combo represents one of the most consistent ways to go infinite in the Pauper format, requiring only a few pieces. While I'm scouring commons, always looking back for potential combo pieces, I can't help but think Freed from the Real must be better, and Ionalien proved that by getting a top 8 finish in the Pauper Rags to Riches tournament at Card Kingdom this weekend. Before I get into the deck tech, I just want to remind you that you can like the video or subscribe to the channel down below. I'd seriously appreciate it. It's a great way to let me know you've enjoyed everything, and it really encourages me to keep making great Pauper content. Alright, let's break down Mono Blue Freed from the Real. First, we have our main combo piece, Freed from the Real. It costs 2 and a blue for an enchantment. You can pay 1 blue to tap the creature enchanted by Freed from the Real, or you can pay 1 blue to untap that creature. What this means is that if you can jump through a couple of hoops to get Freed from the Real onto a permanent that taps for 2 mana, one of which is blue, you can produce infinite mana of the other color that permanent produces. The permanent we intend to enchant is It Boiler Works, a blue-red Karoo land. It enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you return a land you control to its owner's hand. When it's untapped, it adds blue and red. It Boiler Works checks off all of our boxes, except that it isn't a creature. It taps for 2 mana so that you can repeatedly tap and untap it with Freed from the Real, and it's even a land, so it doesn't take up those extra slots in your deck that you can use for things like tutors or interaction. Because we have to enchant a creature with Freed from the Real, we're going to be using Wind Zendikon to make It Boiler Works into a creature. Wind Zendikon costs 1 blue mana for an enchantment aura that enchants a land. The enchanted land is a 2/2 blue elemental creature with flying. It's still a land. When the enchanted creature dies, return that card to its owner's hand. It's a little risky going in on a land as a creature because our opponent could remove it in response to our combo, meaning that we'll be down 2 mana for the rest of our turns throughout the game. It also opens that land up to bounce spells, so we're going to have to be very careful about when we commit our Wind Zendikon to our It Boiler Works so that we don't put ourselves down 2 mana. Finally, we have 2 of our finishers in Valakut Invoker, which costs 2 and a red for a 2/3 with the ability to pay 8 mana to deal 3 damage to any target. Our other win condition is Karavek's Torch, which costs X and a red, and as long as Karavek's Torch is on the stack, spells that target it cost 2 more to cast. Karavek's Torch deals X damage to any target. We have 2 different types of win conditions here. For one, Valakut Invoker is a lot easier to combo off with than any other spell in the format, and also because Karavek's Torch can be harder to counter for some decks, making it good to have at least 1 copy in our main deck just in case we're running into something like Daze. Most Freed from the Real decks are all in combo decks, and Ionalien's deck is no different. They've reserved 12 slots strictly for tutors for our combo pieces. Our first tutor is Drift of Phantasms. It costs 2 and a blue for an 0/5 defender with flying, which is actually pretty okay at blocking Delvers. It has transmute 1 blue. You can pay 1 blue, discard Drift of Phantasms, and search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as Drift of Phantasms. You reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. You can only transmute as a sorcery. If you've noticed, Drift of Phantasm can tutor for Freed from the Real, Karavek's Torch, or Valakut Invoker, depending on what the matchup is. This is an awesome tutor for us to have in this deck. We also have 4 copies of Expedition Map. Its only target is going to be It Boiler Works, the Karoo land that we have to suit up with Wind Zendikon to win the game. Expedition Map costs 1 generic mana for an artifact that you can pay 2 and sacrifice to search your library for a land card, reveal it, and then put it into your hand. Shuffle your library. Our last tutor is Dispel. This is for finding those Wind Zendikons, and it can even find us an Expedition Map to eventually find an It Boiler Works in a pinch. Dispel costs 1 blue mana for an instant that gives target creature -3/-0 until end of turn, maybe helping us survive until we can combo off, but you can also transmute it just like Drift of Phantasm by paying 1 blue and looking through your library for the 1-drop you need. Aside from all of our sweet tutors, we have tons of card filtering and cantrips to make sure we can at least find a tutor for our combo piece on time. Our first card filtering spell is Impulse, and I'm a lot more used to seeing this in Tron decks. It costs 1 and a blue for an instant that lets you look at the top 4 cards of your library. You put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Impulse is sweet. It lets you dig 4 cards deep, and you can even leave it up on your opponent's end step if you were maybe thinking about doing something else that was proactive to stop them from stopping your combo on the following turn. We've also got 4 Ponder, another powerful cantrip. It costs 1 blue for a sorcery that lets you look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library. If if you don't like what you see. Then you draw a card. If we leave a card on top with Ponder and decide not to shuffle our library, we can put the 2 cards we don't want on the bottom before drawing another card with this spell, Preordain. It costs 1 blue for sorcery that lets you scry 2, then draw a card. Finally, Ionalien has a very tight interaction package, only targeting spells that can stop us from comboing off or kill us before we have a chance to do so. First, we have Dispel, which costs 1 blue for an instant that counters target instant spell, just in case our opponent has a counterspell or a prohibit up to stop us from casting something like a Wind Zendikon, a Freed from the Real, or even one of our win conditions. We also have 1 copy of Daze. Maybe we'll get really lucky and get one of our elves opponent's land grants with this. It costs 1 and a blue for an instant. You may return an island you control to its owner's hand rather than pay Daze's mana cost, so sometimes it feels pretty free. It counters target spell unless its controller pays 1. We've also got 3 copies of Gigadrowse, probably our best proactive spell. It costs 1 blue to tap target permanent, but you can replicate it for 1 blue mana. Replicate says when you cast Gigadrowse, you can copy it for each time you paid that 1 blue mana, which is its replicate cost. You may choose new targets for the copies. We most often see Gigadrowse in combo decks tapping out their opponents so that they don't have to worry about removal magic or counter magic on the turn they decide to combo off, but Gigadrowse can also act as a kind of inefficient fog effect if we just need another turn to try to dig into that combo piece. Finally, we have Spontaneous Mutation, our last non-land card. It costs 1 mana for an enchantment aura with flash that enchants a creature. It gives the enchanted creature -X/-0, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. Spontaneous Mutation is often going to be shrinking down our opponent's creatures enough to make it not matter anymore, kind of turning it into a pacifism effect. What's cool about Spontaneous Mutation, Gigadrowse, and Dispel is that all of these cards can be tutored up with our Dizzy spells, just in case our opponent is particularly interactive and we need just the right interaction before we combo off. Alright, let's have a look at this mana base, and don't forget those 4 Karus that are Izzet Boilerworks. The only other lands we're running are basic islands, tons of untapped blue mana for casting our cantrips on time. Alright, let's have a look at this sideboard. First, we have 1 copy of Dispel, another efficient counterspell just in case our opponent is on a lot of their own counters. We have 4 copies of the OG counterspell, just in case we're up against a deck where we can play hard control until we combo off. We have 2 copies of Daze for those really fast efficient decks so that they can't get off the ground quickly enough to kill us. We have 3 copies of Spontaneous Mutation, also for those fast decks, shrink down those creatures so we don't have to worry about them. We have 4 copies of Hydroblast because burn decks will probably burn us out before we find all of our combo pieces, and we have 1 last copy of Gigadrowse, again for those hyper interactive decks that we just have to tap down before we combo off. And there you have it, Ionalien's mono blue freed from the real. We're gonna take this deck into a league at twitch.tv/AnyNewProvince. We're there every Monday night at 7 p.m. Atlantic time playing competitive Pauper decks. Before I go, I just want to remind you that you can like the video or subscribe to the channel down below. I'd seriously appreciate it. It's a great way to let me know you've enjoyed everything, and it really encourages me to keep making great Pauper content. I hope you enjoyed this deck, and hopefully I'll see you on Monday night.